welcome to EWTN ProLife Weekly, your weekly dose of the top pro-life news and issues, all from a Catholic perspective. I'm Catherine Szeltner in our Washington, D.C. studio. Here's what we have for you in this first show of 2018. The countdown is on for the upcoming March for Life. Here who will take the stage at the rally. A women's magazine promotes an abortion procedure that takes 3 minutes to perform. And this.
Just roughed it through different terrain and different things like that, but God provided a lot of hosts, but when we didn't have hosts, we just lived in our van.
Running for life. Hear the incredible cross-country journey of one young woman as she strives to build up a culture of life. But first, our top story, Planned Parenthood released its annual report days ago, and we now know the company performed more than 82 abortions for every one adoption referral. Planned Parenthood performed 321,384 abortions from 2016 to 2017. Adoption referrals numbered at 3,889, according to their reporting. Planned Parenthood's annual report comes on the heels of an FBI investigation into the nation's largest abortion provider. And also news that 32 Planned Parenthood clinics closed down in 2017. That's according to American Life League's annual Planned Parenthood facilities report. To delve more into all of this, we're joined by someone who knows the ins and outs of Planned Parenthood's business well. Abby Johnson is a former Planned Parenthood clinic director, but now a Catholic convert and pro-life advocate. Abby is the founder of And Then There Were None, a group that seeks to end abortion from the inside out. She joins us as she's traveling around Austin, Texas, doing her pro-life work. Abby, thanks for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
First off, Planned Parenthood's annual report for 2016 to 2017 was just released days ago. Why is this information so important to the pro-life movement?
Well, I think it's important for us as we're talking to people about Planned Parenthood, as we're sort of brushing up on our apologetics regarding Planned Parenthood, that we know the exact services that they're providing. So we continue to see, these services that they tout as their most important. So family planning services, annual exams, cancer screenings, all of these things that they talk about. We continue to see those numbers plummet year after year. And the only thing that is on the rise is abortion. And so as people talk to us about, well, it's only 3% of what they do, or, they provide all of these much needed services. It's really important that we're able to look at the real numbers and to say, well, let me show you what's actually happening at Planned Parenthood from their own report.
You made an interesting point right there, as you made in a video ahead of the report's release, that since Cecile Richards became president of Planned Parenthood in 2006, and you worked with Cecile, all services have declined except for abortion.
Yeah, that's what's really interesting. So we hear all the time about how if women don't have access to Planned Parenthood, they don't have access to annual exams, breast exams, cervical cancer screenings, all of these things. And but what we see actually is that those services aren't really a priority to Planned Parenthood, even though they say this is why they're open and they say this is why their services are so important. We're really not seeing that reflected in their numbers. The only thing that we're seeing, like I said, on the rise are abortion services.
You say Planned Parenthood has the incentive actually to promote abortion, even though they claim they are pro-choice, because there are abortion quotas in the clinic. What more can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so each service inside of a Planned Parenthood facility has a quota. So you have a quota for family planning, you have a quota for a certain amount of annual exams you want to provide, but also you have a quota for abortions. And that tells you how much money you're going to be able to bring in each month and throughout the year. And so you want to be able to meet those quotas. Otherwise, if you don't, you have to start laying staff off. And so it's just another line item in their budget, and it's just part of their business plan.
Abby, how do you respond when people claim Planned Parenthood is for women's health and to be against Planned Parenthood is to be against women?
Well, I certainly am a proponent of women's health care. I am a woman, so that's important to me. But I also know that the reality is that there are tens of thousands of other providers across the country that can provide more substantial and more comprehensive health care to women in their times of need. We don't need Planned Parenthood. Planned Parenthood clinics are closing across the country at a rapid rate every year. We don't need their organization. And even what we see in Texas here is that we have over 5,000 providers that will see low-income women. We have fewer than 50 Planned Parenthood clinics in Texas. So we really don't need the services that they're providing because we can receive those services from other more competent providers.
Abby Johnson, CEO and founder of And Then There Were None. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.
We're going to stay on the topic of Planned Parenthood's abortion business, but with our next guest, shift to what it means for the pro-life strategy in 2018. What steps should we take this year to build up a culture of life? Mallory Quigley is Communications Director for the Susan B. Anthony List. Mallory, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Catherine.
Thanks for being with us. What did you make of what Abby just had to say and of Planned Parenthood's newly released report?
Sure. Well, Abby's completely right that women don't need Planned Parenthood and that they really cannot claim this mantle of women's healthcare provider when their cancer screening and prevention services have declined very steadily over the last several years. Even their contraception services are declining. The only thing that's really not going down in large numbers is abortion. That is clearly their bread and butter. They are a profit-driven, abortion-centered business, and it is about time that we defund them. I mean, the new report shows that women are, in fact, actually turning away. The clinics are closing. Their overall services are dropping. They do 30% of this nation's market share of abortions. It's really what they're all about, and there's no getting around that.
It's the start of a new year. How much of a priority is defunding Planned Parenthood?
Well, it's certainly a top priority for the pro-life movement and for the president. We know Congress is trying to do their part, but it is going to be difficult to do this legislatively given the vote count that we have now, particularly in the Senate. So there are certain things that the Trump administration can do, and in fact, the ball's already begun rolling for them to limit Planned Parenthood's funding administratively. For example, Governor McMaster from South Carolina, he has requested new guidelines from the Trump administration about their Medicaid funding for Planned Parenthood. Medicaid is Planned Parenthood's largest source of taxpayer dollars. It's $400 million a year.
Wow.
And so these new guidelines, if the Trump administration would announce them, I think that it's likely that they will, would mean that the states now have the ability to defund Planned Parenthood through Medicaid. They already have this ability through Title X funding, but Medicaid is really the largest source of funding.
And make a big impact. One piece of legislation we've been following closely at the end of last year is the spending bill and keeping the pro-life provisions in. What's the status there?
That's right. So yes, in the end of December, they passed a spending bill that gets us through to January 19th. That is the new deadline. So we need everyone to stay engaged as Congress is working on a new deal now for a spending bill that will take us through to the end of the year. And although they're a little bit slow getting off the ground this week, you know, after the holiday, we've already been reiterating our pro-life message to every Hill office to say that you cannot pass an appropriations bill that includes a bailout for the Affordable Care Act without the Hyde protections. So we need everyone to stay engaged at least through January 19th on this particular battle.
What else do you have your eyes on as we begin this new year?
Well, certainly a huge priority for Susan B. Anthony List and the pro-life movement and President Trump is passing that pain-capable bill, the Pain-Capable Unborn Child Protection Act, to stop late-term abortions after 5 months. And so we had a successful House vote last year, and now we need the Senate to take the next step. So we're expecting a vote on that early in the new year.
A lot of goals and a lot of hope right now as we begin this new year. Mallory, stick with us for this next story right now. We now know the confirmed speakers for the upcoming 45th annual March for Life. Speakers taking the stage at the noon rally on DC's National Mall will include Pam Tebow, the mother of NFL and MLB superstar Tim Tebow, Matt Burke, a former NFL player, U.S. Representative Chris Smith, a Republican from New Jersey, and U.S. Representative Dan Lipinski, a Democrat from Illinois. Another confirmed speaker includes Sister of Life's own Sister Bethany Madonna. The March for Life is on Friday, January 19th, and you can watch EWTN for complete coverage. Mallory, the March for Life is such a big deal for the pro-life movement. It's a big day. For marchers who are coming up here, how can they promote and push pro-life legislation?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the legislative element of this is key. And so if people are making the trek to Washington, D.C., I hope that they will make an appointment to go see their legislators, or just show up right after the march kind of ends very perfectly for you to be able to go over to Congress and lobby your legislators on the Paying Capable bill, on defunding Planned Parenthood. It's so important that they hear directly from their constituents. They know that we come all the way to Washington to meet them and talk about this very important issue.
And it's right around the corner. Mallory Quigley, thanks for being with us.
My pleasure.
Pro-lifers, here's an important update from Washington. Congress is debating a spending bill with funding to bail out the Affordable Care Act, or Obamacare. But it is not protected by the Hyde Amendment. The Hyde Amendment, enacted in 1976 and passed every year since, is an important pro-life protection. According to research from the Pro-Life Charlotte Lozier Institute, the Hyde Amendment has saved over 2 million lives. The new deadline for the government funding shutdown is January 19th, the same day as the March for Life in Washington, D.C. We need to tell Congress we oppose any spending bill that uses funds to cover abortion. We need to raise our voice and say we do not want our taxpayer dollars going to fund abortion or towards insurance coverage that includes abortion. Here's this week's call to action. Grab your phone or laptop and type in this website, ProLifeWeekly.com. Once again, that is ProLifeWeekly.com. At this website, you can tell Congress not to pass any Obamacare bailout package that does not include pro-life Hyde protections. The Hyde Amendment represents our conscience as a taxpayer, and it saves lives. Any member who votes for a spending bill with a cost-sharing reduction bailout for Obamacare that is not covered by the Hyde Amendment would be voting to use taxpayer dollars for insurance that includes abortion. One thing should be clear. A pro-life Congress cannot open the doors to more taxpayer funding of abortion. Send in your message right now, before the January 19th deadline for the government funding shutdown. Go to ProLifeWeekly.com and tell Congress not to pass any Obamacare bailout package that does not include pro-life Hyde protections. Once again, that is ProLifeWeekly.com. Turning now to more pro-life news, a Catholic law firm, the Thomas More Society, will appeal a court's decision allowing Illinois to spend taxpayer dollars on abortion. An Illinois judge last week dismissed a lawsuit opposing a new state law that expands abortion coverage. House Bill 40 allows taxpayer dollars to fund free abortions for individuals with Medicaid coverage and for state employees with health insurance. Throughout 9 months of pregnancy, there's no limit on the number of abortions covered by Medicaid and no limit on the amount of money spent on abortions. Governor Bruce Rauner signed the bill into law last year after he promised to stay neutral on social issues. The Thomas More Society calls the law a violation of the Illinois Constitution. In Nebraska, Planned Parenthood of the Heartland unveils a My Body, My Choice specialty license plate. The group submitted their application to the Department of Motor Vehicles to counter the state's Choose Life license plate. The pro-life plate was commissioned and approved last year. It's been nearly 3 months now since the Trump administration granted broad exemptions to the HHS contraceptive mandate, and ever since, Planned Parenthood has been deceitfully attacking the move. One of Planned Parenthood's repeated talking points is that a reported 58% of all women who use the birth control pill rely on it, at least in part, for something other than pregnancy prevention. You may have heard this yourself. Perhaps a doctor has told you the only way to treat your endometriosis or polycystic ovarian syndrome or another condition is with the pill. But we recently spoke with a doctor who tells us about another solution, one that does not include putting hormones or devices into a woman's body, destroying fertility, or violating one's conscience. Take a look. Dr. Lorna Cvetkovich is a Catholic and pro-life practicing obstetrics and gynecology doctor and NaProTECHNOLOGY medical consultant at Tepeyac OB/GYN, the largest fully pro-life OB/GYN in the U.S. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Many women claim that they need birth control not to prevent pregnancy, but to treat things like endometriosis, for example. Is that true? Is birth control the solution for that?
No, sadly, it's actually the opposite. Certainly birth control pills rarely have their place, but for the most part, they actually prevent the practitioner from getting down to actually making a specific diagnosis and a specific treatment. So one prime example is endometriosis. The average time from when a woman first goes to the doctor with bad pain to the time she gets diagnosed is 7 years. And so part of that is because it works as a pretty good Band-Aid. So you can quickly, easily get somebody out of your office, their pain is addressed, but their real problem is never addressed. Same thing with bleeding issues. You know, it's very typically given to teenagers who are having bleeding problems. And if you actually asked some of the authoritative reproductive endocrinologists, they'll tell you, well, no, if you put them on the pill at that point, you actually inhibit or impede their pituitary gland and their ovaries from learning how to work together. So it really rarely has a place.
Why is there so much misinformation on this, and how do you respond to that with birth control being so widely prescribed as a pro-life doctor yourself?
Well, I think the only way to respond is just show that you can practice without it. And I think for people who have been through a traditional OBGYN program, it takes some time and effort to actually do that. But there are ways, and again, it just mostly goes back to good medical practice, finding what the problem is and addressing it specifically. But the reason it's so overwhelmingly promoted is that the doctor knows, okay, it's going to solve the problem, but also the patient won't be pregnant. And so there's an assumption that every young woman needs to be protected from pregnancy.
Let's talk about one of those ways to actually treat one of these conditions, NaProTECHNOLOGY. That's just one way. What is that exactly?
You know, it sounds a little fancy, but actually it's just the application of the charting of natural family planning to gynecologic problems, including infertility, but also including bleeding problems and other things. So you're using the chart to give you information about the woman that you would not have.
Making observations about themselves.
Correct, exactly. And then beyond that, you also strive, again, you do things to treat the disease as opposed to, well, let's just say IVF. You don't really have to worry too much about why the couple is infertile. You just take them through IVF and get a baby, get a pregnancy. Whereas with NaProTECHNOLOGY, you would do a very thorough investigation and try to find out exactly why. And then using both medical and surgical treatments, you would correct those things so that they can get pregnant on their own.
So NaProTECHNOLOGY helps you to identify the underlying conditions. Is it a treatment in and of itself?
No, it's not really treatment in and of itself, but especially for things like male infertility, it may be one of the only things other than IVF that you have to offer, because timing and making sure the female half of the equation is perfect are the two things that are going to possibly allow a couple with male infertility to achieve.
You know, we're speaking about infertility, and so many women, I think about 10% of women of pregnancy-bearing age struggle with infertility, and NaProTECHNOLOGY, NFP can help with that.
I think it also helps because it really is a reality check for the person, because they can see right there what's going on in their own body, and they can interpret that in some ways. And also it's a reality check in that not everybody is going to get pregnant, and once in a while it's good to be able to witness and see why. You know, it brings them down to, it kind of gets rid of, sometimes it gets rid of the question of why.
So when do you recommend women begin utilizing NaProTECHNOLOGY? When should they start charting, and how do they do that?
You know, there's a lot of different answers to that. If you see it as in more broad sense as something that just is very good for women's self-knowledge, or for the ability to identify early medical problems, then you could say that maybe even 13, 14, 15, you could start charting. In fact, there's actually a teen abstinence program. It's not called that. It's called Teen Start, but it uses the charting to demonstrate to the young woman that she knows her body, she understands it, and if she can identify when she's ovulating, no one is going to be able to convince her otherwise. Plus, it also embodies a lot of self-respect, which is really the reason why a lot of young women get involved in unfortunate relationships anyways, because there's a lack of respect.
And that self-awareness is empowering.
It's very empowering.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
When we come back,
It's if and only if you get involved will these children have life. So we have to do something. So we're the if.
Project If Life is a cross-country mission with a beautiful message. Stay tuned as EWTN ProLife Weekly continues after this break. Welcome back to EWTN ProLife Weekly. I'm Catherine Szeltner. In a culture that prioritizes speed and convenience, we have in the United States fast food, fast dating apps, and now fast abortions. Glamour magazine, a so-called women's magazine, ran this article just a few days ago. There's a device called the Soft Touch that can perform an abortion in just 3 minutes. That's right, 3 minutes. The writer says the relatively new device involves either electrically or manually sucking out an embryo. The article praises the Soft Touch for fitting into the palm of a doctor's hand, highlighting how it doesn't require an electric suction machine and how the woman can now get an entire abortion procedure done in her lunch hour and go right back to work. The Soft Touch completes an abortion anywhere from 1 to 3 minutes, depending on the stage of a woman's pregnancy. It's currently only available from one New York City provider and not covered by insurance. Getting an abortion is not as inconsequential as taking a lunch break or grabbing a coffee. An abortion kills an unborn child. It robs the world of a unique life we've never had before. It hurts women. It hurts men. Getting an abortion has consequences, and abortion advocates can remarket and advertise and promote abortion in new ways, such as this instance, and selling it as a 3 minutes or less procedure, but the result is the same. A child is killed. Glamour magazine barely included any concerns in their article praising this abortion device, which further reveals the publication's agenda. But I'd encourage women to remember the trite saying that just because something is quick and easy, it doesn't make it right. And the consequences of abortion far outlast the 3 minutes this procedure takes. Remember, there is always something you can do to counter today's culture of death. Take action by going to ProLifeWeekly.com. Tell Congress not to pass any Obamacare bailout package that does not include pro-life hide protections. Every single person has a skill, a gift, a talent. What if we used our gifts to build up a culture of life? And if, and only if, we do something, will our culture change and abortion end? It's a mission one young woman took to heart and to the road. From the California coast,
We're almost there, about 35 miles away from Canyon City.
Through Colorado Heights to our nation's capital.
I don't think anybody could be as happy about this moment as I am right now.
Kansas City native Anna Hadesky ran and biked nearly 3,000 miles across the United States last year. The intense course, all to activate people into the pro-life movement.
Running gave us a platform, and with the running and biking portion, it allowed me to be able to show people my dedication to the movement. I'm willing to spend over a year of my life running and exerting a lot physically and biking and for the same reason, to tell people this is important to me.
Hadesky joined me in the EWTN DC studio in October after completing her trip. She shares how the running idea came to her in prayer.
I had such a strong pro-life burden since I was a little girl, and as I was training for a half marathon, I was asking God and just saying, basically, you can't leave me with this burden without being able to do anything about it. And at the end of one of my training runs, I just kept praying, and God laid it on my heart, run across America for the pro-life movement. So once I graduated college, I started.
Motivated by the pro-life cause and her Christian faith, Hadesky launched Project If Life in July of 2016.
It's if and only if you get involved will these children have life. So we have to do something. So we're the if. It's if we get involved, they'll be able to see life.
Project If Life aims to match each person's unique skill set to the needs of the pro-life movement, whether it's help with cleaning, counseling, or volunteering time at a pregnancy center. Hadesky says there's a way everyone can be involved. To raise awareness of this message, Hadesky started running 10 to 15 miles a day, 5 days a week. It was a journey that included nearly 70 pro-life speaking engagements,
It is our heart to activate people into what you guys are doing, because we believe you guys really are the front lines of battle.
And unexpected events, like a knee injury that forced Hudusky to switch from running to biking. But throughout it all, this young woman says her faith has only been strengthened.
God's timing has been perfect timing, no matter where we've been, with the right speaking engagements, the right people, all across America.
After going through 8 pairs of tennis shoes and giving over a year of her life, the cross-country run might be over now. But for Anna Hudusky, it's just the start of her work.
We'll just continue as a nonprofit, educating and activating people.
Because building up a culture of life is a marathon, not a sprint. You can learn more about Anna's journey and Project If Life by visiting projectif.life. That's it for this edition of EWTN ProLife Weekly. Until next time, we'd love to hear from you, whether it's a question or a comment. You can reach us anytime at ProLifeWeekly@EWTN.com. I look forward to seeing you here again next week. Life is a gift. Your life is a gift. God bless.